The Countrymod 12-volt RV air conditioner has been the best performing 12-volt RV AC I have tested so far. It has won every comparison it has been in. The Modspioneer has also been one of the stronger units I've tested, and in my previous comparison, it came in second behind the Countrymod. But now there's a new challenger, the Gidrox 12-volt RV air conditioner. So in this video, I'm putting all three of them to the test. The reigning champion, Countrymod, the previous runner-up, Modspioneer, and the new challenger, Gidrox. All three are battery-powered 12-volt rooftop RV air conditioners, and all three fit a standard 14 by 14 inch roof opening. But they are not the same when it comes to size, features, installation, power draw, airflow, cooling output, or efficiency. So today, I'm going to measure the real-world performance and score all three using the same 100-point system I've used in my other RV AC tests. So the question is, can the Countrymod stay on top, or will the new Gidrox finally knock it down? Now, running an air conditioner from batteries is one of the biggest challenges in RV and van life. A microwave, coffee maker, or induction cooktop may use a lot of power, but they usually only run for a few minutes. An air conditioner can run for hours. So when you're looking at a battery-powered RV AC, the real question is not just, does it blow cold air? The real question is, how much cooling does it produce for the amount of battery power it uses? That's what I'm testing in this video. For this comparison, all three air conditioners were tested using the same battery setup. I used the Countrymod 12.8 volt 630 amp hour battery to power each AC. Think about that for a minute. 630 amp hours in one battery. That's over 8,000 watt hours in one battery. Using the same powerful battery is important because these 12-volt RV air conditioners can pull a lot of current, especially in turbo mode. So I wanted to use the same battery source for each unit and keep the power system consistent across the test. For measuring power, I used a Victron SmartShunt to track the average wattage during the test. For airflow, I used the same airflow meter on each air conditioner. I also used the same custom-made duct on each AC. Now that part's important because airflow readings can change depending on the outlet shape, vent design, and how the air is directed. By using the same custom duct on all three units, I kept the airflow method and ducting consistent across the test. For temperature, I measured the inlet air temperature and outlet air temperature to calculate the delta T, which is the temperature drop across the AC. Each unit was tested in turbo mode using the same basic method under the same outdoor conditions. The test conditions were very tough though, as the relative humidity was about 62% and the inlet air temperature was around 98 to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. For each AC, I measured delta T, CFM, average wattage in turbo mode, and then I used those numbers to calculate sensible cooling, otherwise known as BTUH, efficiency, which is the EER, and cost per BTUH. Now that gives me a better picture of how each unit actually performed instead of relying only on the advertised BTU rating. Now for the 100-point scoring system. For the final ranking, I'm using the same 100-point scoring system I've used in my other RV AC tests. The score is based on 5 categories. Features, which is 15 points. This includes things like swing vents, LED lights, heat mode, remote control, app control, display controls, and operating modes. Then there's installation and footprint. So this is 15 points, and it's based on my perceived ease of installation, including the size of the rooftop unit, the weight, the rooftop footprint, how many parts need to be assembled, and the ease of the power connection. Then there's calculated BTUH, which is worth 35 points. So this is based on the calculated sensible cooling outputs. Then there's calculated EER, 25 points, which is based on calculated efficiency. Then we have cost per calculated BTUH, for 10 points, and it's based on how much cooling performance each unit delivered for the money. So this keeps the final score balanced between features, install practicality, cooling output, efficiency, and value. So let's get to the units being tested. So first is the Countrymod 12-volt RV air conditioner. This Countrymod is advertised as a 10,000 BTU 12-volt rooftop RV AC. The price I'm using for this comparison is $939. The rooftop unit measures about 31.7 inches by 31.7 inches by 7.1 inches, and it weighs 54 pounds. Feature-wise, the Countrymod has swing vents and the typical operating modes, but it doesn't have a built-in light and it doesn't have heat mode. For features, I'm giving the Countrymod 13 out of 15 points. For installation and footprint, I'm giving the Countrymod 14 out of 15 points. It weighs 54 pounds and has a smaller footprint than the Gidrox, but the Countrymod does have more assembly than the other two ACs. Next is the Modspioneer 12-volt RV air conditioner. Now, the Modspioneer is advertised as an 11,000 BTU 12-volt rooftop RV AC. The price I'm using for this comparison is $858. The rooftop unit measures about 37 inches long, 24 7/8 inches wide, and 7 3/8 inches tall. It weighs about 70 pounds. Feature-wise, the Modspioneer has swing vents, an LED light, and the typical cooling modes, but it doesn't have heat mode. For features, I'm giving the Modspioneer 14 out of 15 points. For installation and footprint, I'm giving the Modspioneer 14 out of 15 points. It is the heaviest unit in this comparison at 70 pounds, but it has fewer parts to assemble, and you don't need to assemble the power cord. Now, the third unit is the Gidrox 12-volt RV air conditioner. The Gidrox is advertised as a 10,000 BTU 12-volt rooftop RV AC. The price I'm using for this comparison is $899. The rooftop unit measures about 35 inches by 35.5 inches by 7 inches, and it weighs about 54 pounds. The Gidrox seems well made overall and has a low profile design. Now, feature-wise, the Gidrox is the only unit in this comparison with heat mode, rated at 4,500 BTU heating, but it does not have swing vents. For features, I'm giving the Gidrox 14 out of 15 points. For installation and footprint, I'm giving the Gidrox 12 out of 15 points. It weighs 54 pounds and has a low profile design, but it has the largest rooftop footprint, and the power connection requires both assembly and additional protection. Now, the Gidrox uses a nut and bolt style connection where the bolt passes through the loop ends and tightens them together. The problem is that once connected, you have large metal nuts and bolts that can easily touch each other and cause a short. Because of the shape of the nut and bolt connection, it would be difficult to cover cleanly with heat shrink, and electrical tape could get frayed over time by the sharper edges of the nut and bolt. So if I were installing the Gidrox permanently, I would cut off the loop ends on the battery power cord and replace them with a properly rated insulated connector between the AC wiring and the battery power cable. Now let's look at the actual test results. Starting with the Modspioneer, the Modspioneer had a delta T of 25.4 degrees Fahrenheit, airflow of 292 CFM, and average wattage use in turbo mode of 785 watts. That calculates to 8,011 BTUH and an EER of 10.2. The Modspioneer had a strong temperature drop, but it had the lowest airflow of the three units, which kept its calculated BTUH lower. Next is the Countrymod. So the Countrymod had a delta T of 26.5 degrees Fahrenheit, average airflow of 319.5 CFM, and average wattage use in turbo mode of 713 watts. That calculates to 9,144 BTUH and an EER of 12.82. So the Countrymod had the highest delta T, the highest calculated BTUH, the highest EER, and the lowest wattage. That is a very strong combination for a battery-powered RV air conditioner. And then we have the Gidrox. So the Gidrox had a delta T of 22.4 degrees Fahrenheit, airflow of 350 CFM, and average wattage use in turbo mode of 874 watts. That calculates to 8,467 BTUH and an EER of 9.69. The Gidrox had the highest airflow in this test, but it also had the lowest delta T and the highest power draw. So even though it moved the most air, it did not beat the Countrymod in calculated BTUH or efficiency. So one of the biggest lessons from this test is that CFM alone does not determine cooling output. The Gidrox had the highest airflow at 350 CFM. The Countrymod moved less air at 319.5 CFM, but the Countrymod had a stronger delta T at 26.5 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the 22.4 degrees Fahrenheit for the Gidrox. Now that stronger temperature drop more than made up for the lower airflow. So even though the Gidrox moved more air, the Countrymod calculated to more BTUH. So that's why I don't rank these AC units by CFM alone. And I don't rank them by outlet temperature alone. You have to look at both airflow and delta T together. All right, so now for the final ranking and takeaways. In third place is the Gidrox with 87 points. So the Gidrox has some real advantages. It had the highest airflow in the test, the second highest calculated BTUH. It is low profile, it weighs only 54 pounds, and it is the only unit with a heat mode rated at 4,500 BTU. The Gidrox finished just behind the Modspioneer, so this was still a very close battle for second place. But the Gidrox also had the highest power draw, the lowest EER, the largest rooftop footprint, and the power connection requires both assembly and additional protection. That power connection is the biggest thing I'd want to change before installing it permanently and cost it second place in the comparison. So in second place is the Modspioneer with 88.2 points. The Modspioneer has a strong feature package, fewer parts to assemble, and it has the easiest power connection because the power cord does not need to be assembled. But it is the heaviest unit in this comparison at 70 pounds. It does not have heat mode, and it had a lower calculated BTUH. So even though it is rated at 11,000 BTU, in this test it did not produce the highest calculated cooling outputs. And in first place is the Countrymod with 97 points. The Countrymod did not have the highest advertised BTU rating, it did not have the best features package, but it had the highest calculated BTUH, the highest EER, the lowest wattage usage, and the best cost per BTUH. For battery-powered off-grid RV air conditioning, that combination matters a lot. The Countrymod was the strongest overall performer in this test. This test is a good reminder that advertised BTU ratings are not enough. The Modspioneer is advertised at 11,000 BTU, while the Countrymod and Gidrox are advertised at 10,000 BTU. But in this hot and humid outdoor test, the Countrymod produced the highest calculated sensible cooling outputs. So that's why I like measuring airflow, delta T, and wattage instead of only relying on product listings. For off-grid RV air conditioning, the best unit is not just the one with the biggest advertised number, it's the one that gives you the best balance of cooling, efficiency, battery use, features, installation, and value. In this comparison, that unit was the Countrymod 12-volt RV AC. Now you can check the description for links to all 3 air conditioners along with any discount codes I have available. If this video helped you, hit the like button, subscribe, and follow along because I'll be testing more RV air conditioners, battery, solar, and off-grid power systems. So until then, stay cool.